Yemmers, Yemmerz asks, can you discuss nicotine pouches? Any positive or negative effects? I feel like this is under discussed. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are doing them, so worth talking about. And I myself, I enjoy the occasional nicotine pouch as a nootropic or as a cognitive boosting tool. Now, nicotine, despite what you've heard on other podcasts, nicotine is not a free lunch. There are harms associated with just nicotine. Most of the harms that have been elucidated in the literature from nicotine have tended to come from studies using combustible tobacco, which obviously contains a high amount of nicotine. And we know that smoking is not good for you. It's associated with obviously sharply increased risk of lung cancer, of cardiovascular disease, of Alzheimer's disease. You don't smoke. But nicotine pouches have arisen as a viable tobacco cessation alternative, which they're now, in fact, FDA approved for that purpose. And nicotine does have some really interesting research on it. It does seem to play a role in, it can potentially boost cognitive function. There are some studies on the major metabolite of nicotine, which is called cotinine, as being able to potentially boost mental health in certain regards. They're primarily animal studies, so I wouldn't put too much stock in that research. And again, with nicotine pouches, you're getting a dose of nicotine without the ingestion of tar and smoke, which is of benefit. So you get a potential cognitive boost. Nicotine is also an appetite suppressant, so that might, there might be some benefits there, although I'm not suggesting you use nicotine as an appetite suppressant, but it does happen to do that. But there are significant downsides. So nicotine is well known by itself. I'm not just talking about cigarette smoke. I'm talking about nicotine in the lip pouches is known to increase heart rate acutely. It's known to increase blood pressure, and it's highly addictive. So if you are unable to have a responsible relationship with nicotine, which most people are not, it's highly addictive. Then what you're doing is you're artificially causing an increase in your heart rate, in your blood pressure. Now the question is, are the increases in heart rate and blood pressure sustained for somebody who develops a tolerance to nicotine? I think that's unclear. What we do know is that for somebody who's naive to nicotine, it definitely increases heart rate and blood pressure. It also induces vasoconstriction. So anybody who's getting a surgery, you want to steer clear of nicotine because it can impede wound healing. And it's pretty obviously apparent that it can affect cardiovascular health because of its vasoconstrictive effect. So anybody, I've experienced this myself on days where I've used more than I would like. I feel slightly more out of breath, and I don't use combustible nicotine. Nicotine in and of itself does have that vasoconstrictive effect, which can affect cardiorespiratory fitness negatively. So it's not a free lunch. I think if you can responsibly use it the same way that, we can responsibly use caffeine, and we know not to consume caffeine too late at night, for otherwise it might negatively impact sleep. I think if you are able to have a responsible relationship with it, and use it for a cognitive boost, then that might potentially work. But I want to caveat that with the warning that not everybody is able to do that because nicotine is addictive, regardless of the source. So just be careful with it. It is not harmless, but it's much lower risk than smoking. And I should also add that if you are a nicotine user, if you're not a nicotine user, I'm not recommending that you start. If you are a nicotine user, there are some clean products on the market that I'm familiar with. I have zero financial affiliation with any of these products, but and I just go by what they've told me about the products and what I understand from their websites and their marketing and having personal relationships with the founders or maybe not personal relationships, but I've interacted with the founders of these companies. There's a company called Athletic Nicotine, and there's a company called Knick-Knack, and both make what I understand to be among the cleanest products on the market. There might be others, but the only two that I'm familiar with are Athletic Nicotine and Knick-Knack, and both make products that are very low dose. So when I personally will use nicotine for a cognitive boost, Athletic Nicotine makes a 1.5 milligram lip pouch, and then Knick-Knacks are lozenges that you can easily break and dose accordingly. But I'm not recommending that you go out and try this. I'm not recommending that if you don't use nicotine that you go out and start. But for those who do, those are, I think, the better options that are out there. Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.